Chapter 46. The light of Buddha filled the air. The entire Su residence was shrouded in the light of Buddha. Golden lotuses slowly bloomed in the void, pure and transparent like glass, untainted by dust. A hazy figure walked out from the light of Buddha. It was as if all the light of Buddha was born from him. The moment this figure walked out, a voice rang out. Time seemed to have stood still. Everyone in the Su family, including the upper realm assassin, felt a terrifying pressure covering them. His internal strength stopped circulating. His heart slowed down. His blood almost solidified. No! This is? A huge wave was set off in the upper realm assassin's mind. Such a terrifying aura was simply unheard of. Even the Grade 1 Great Grandmasters that the upper realm assassin knew could not create such a terrifying scene just by releasing their aura. Plop. Under the incredulous gaze of the upper realm assassin, the hazy figure shrouded in the light of Buddha took a step, and the assassin who rushed towards Su Yueyun fell to the ground with a plop. The hazy figure took another step, and the second assassin also fell to the ground. Almost in an instant, the hazy figure took 7 steps, and 7 assassins fell to the ground without any suspense. The strength of these assassins was different, but the weakest was in the middle realm, and the strongest was another upper realm assassin. However, whether it was the middle realm assassin or the upper realm assassin, under the hazy figure's steps, they had no ability to resist. With each step, one person died. Not good. In the next moment, the upper realm assassin's scalp went numb. Because at this moment, almost all the assassins on the field were dead, and only he was still alive. The reason why the upper realm assassin was not dead yet was because he did not make a move at all. He only used his aura to suppress the family Su's patriarch, Su Shimin. He was the furthest away from the high platform where Su Yueyun and the groom were. However, no matter how far away he was, the hazy figure shrouded in the light of Buddha had already begun to take his 8th step. Run! The last upper realm assassin did not hesitate to use all the forbidden techniques he had mastered, trying to survive. Although these forbidden techniques can greatly improve his strength, the hidden dangers are great. After this time, even if he can survive, his strength will drop by a realm, and he may even directly become a cripple. However, compared to death, any price he had to pay was worth it. The eyes of the upper realm assassin instantly turned blood red, and the internal strength that had stopped circulating began to rise. The next moment, the hazy figure shrouded in Buddhist light took the 8th step. The upper realm cultivators, who were originally filled with joy, now felt as if the world was collapsing. Everything ceased to exist as they fell to the ground with a plop. After all the assassins were dead, the Buddha's light continued to spread. The hazy figure slowly walked towards the newcomer's high platform. You are... Su Yueyun opened his eyes wide, trying to see the hazy figure that was gradually approaching. Unfortunately, under the shroud of the Buddha's light, Su Yueyun could only vaguely recognize that this hazy figure was tall and slender. As for the rest, such as his facial features, and so on, it was completely impossible to see clearly. However, for some reason, Su Yueyun felt very close to this hazy figure, as if it was a relative he had not seen for many years. Buddhist light filled the air. The hazy figure stopped in front of Su Yueyun. Su Yueyun subconsciously moved back a little. The Buddha's light shrouded everyone, except for Su Yueyun. Under the infiltration of the Buddha's light, Su Yueyun not only did not feel uncomfortable, but also felt very comfortable. The hazy figure's tone was calm, as if he was lost. When Su Yueyun heard this, he felt as if something in his heart was broken, and he had the urge to cry. At this time, the hazy figure raised his hand, took off a jade pendant hanging around his neck, and put it in Su Yueyun's hand. Wear it, don't leave it, it will keep you safe and happy. Su Yueyun stared at the jade pendant in his hand, not knowing what to say. This jade pendant was very ordinary. As the daughter of the Su family, Su Yueyun usually looked down on this kind of jade pendant. But at this time, Su Yueyun held this jade pendant and felt an inexplicable sense of security in his heart. It was as if the hazy figure was telling the truth, that she would be safe and happy as long as she wore this jade pendant. Su Qin put down the jade pendant and took a last look at Su Yuan. The jade pendant he left was naturally not an ordinary jade pendant. Before leaving the Shaolin Temple, Su Qin had comprehended the Devil Buddha's demonic thought division parasitism method. He divided a strand of his own divine thoughts and integrated it into the jade pendant. 900 years ago, the Devil Buddha was sealed by the Buddha's palm. It was by constantly dividing his demonic thoughts every 100 years that he bewitched one successor of the Devil Buddha after another and almost destroyed the Shaolin Temple. Although Su Qin can't do it to the same extent as the Devil Buddha, it is not a problem for him to leave a strand of his divine thoughts in the jade pendant. When Su Yuan is in a life and death situation, he can burst out with power to save her life. With Su Qin's current strength, even if it's just a strand of his divine thoughts, anyone below Grade 1 Great Grandmaster will almost certainly die. Even a Grade 1 Great Grandmaster will be seriously injured on the spot. As for Peak Grade 1, this strand of divine thoughts can't do anything to a Peak Grade 1. But a Peak Grade 1 is not a fool. Naturally, he can see what this jade pendant represents. There is no Peak Grade 1. After knowing that Su Yuan is backed by a powerhouse of at least the same level, will still have the intention to kill. One must know that there are only a few Peak Grade 1 in the world. They are afraid of each other and are not willing to fight. Because for most Peak Grade 1, the most important thing is always to go further and break through the myth bottleneck. In addition, power? Beauty? It's not worth mentioning in their eyes. For example, Daoist Zhang of Wudong Mountain's true martial lineage, even if he has the strength to suppress the world, he still won't take a step out of Wudong Mountain. There is also the imperial teacher of the Meng Yuan Empire. He doesn't care about the position of the monarch. Su Qin left this jade pendant to Su Yuan. In a way, it can indeed keep her safe and happy. Who are you? Why did you give it to me? Su Yuan suddenly looked up, only to find that the hazy figure had disappeared. The Buddha's light receded. The golden lotus melted. The pressure that shrouded everyone was swept away. Yun, are you okay? The groom, Li Xing, asked with concern. I'm fine. Su Yuan shook her head, subconsciously clenched the jade pendant in her hand, and whispered, I seem to have seen my third brother. Third brother? The groom was stunned. He knew that Su Yuan had a third brother, but didn't this third brother disappear 15 years ago? At this moment, although the Buddha's light disappeared, but the family Su mansion was still silent. Countless martial artists from all over Zhangzhou were shocked to the extreme. Although they couldn't move just now. But moving meant that they couldn't see anything. The hazy figure shrouded in the Buddha's light seemed to fill the world. It was supreme, powerful, and vast. Buddha has shown his power. Several weak martial artists barely managed to struggle out of their shock. Buddha. The other martial artists trembled and didn't dare to look up. Huh? Where's that monk? Chapter 47. Maybe he ran to other places in the chaos just now? The rough man didn't think much about it and followed the other martial artists to worship the Buddha, who just appeared. When the assassin just appeared, many martial artists fled in chaos. In the rough man's view, the interesting monk may have left at that time. Oh, Buddha! The rough man looked amazed. He has traveled extensively and naturally knew that the hazy figure that appeared just now, even if it wasn't the legendary Buddha, it must be an unimaginable powerhouse. In the face of such an existence that almost reached the end of the 9th grade martial Dao, it was completely worthy of the worship of the martial artists present. Yin, are you okay? Su Shimin quickly came to Su Yuan and asked with concern. It's good that you're okay. It's good that you're okay. Su Shimin breathed a sigh of relief. Just now, when he was locked on by the upper realm assassin hiding in the dark, Su Shimin was almost desperate. This feeling was even more desperate than 15 years ago, when the family Su's enemy, Yanhua, came. But he didn't expect that the situation would turn around. Those terrifying assassins were actually dealt with by a terrifying existence passing by. My family Su is so lucky to have such a powerhouse come to save us. Su Shimin looked terrified and bowed to the crowd. Senior came to save us. My family Su is grateful. If Senior needs anything in the future, we will definitely not refuse. As a 5th grade martial artist, Su Shimin's eyesight is of course better than the other martial artists present. He wouldn't really believe that it was Buddha. After a long time, no one responded. Su Shimin slowly straightened his back, looking slightly regretful. Although he didn't know why the Senior wanted to save his family Su, but if he took this opportunity to get in touch with the Senior, it would definitely be an unprecedented good fortune for his family Su. But unfortunately, after the Senior took action, he was too lazy to show up. Father. At this moment, Su Yueyun hesitated for a while and couldn't help but say, I feel that the person just now seemed to be third brother, Qin. Su Shimin was stunned for a moment. Then he looked shocked and reprimanded, Nonsense. If Senior were to find out that you spoke like that, wouldn't it be a disaster for our family Su in a fit of anger? Su Shimin glared at Su Yueyun. Su Shimin had never thought that this daughter of his would actually dare to have such delusions. That Senior's strength was exceedingly high, and he was definitely one of the top experts in the world. How could he be related to Su Qin, who was sent to the Shaolin Temple 15 years ago? Putting aside the fact that Su Qin had no martial arts aptitude, it was impossible for him to become a martial artist in his lifetime. So what if Su Qin was a peerless genius? At the very most, Su Qin was only 25 years old this year. What kind of strength could a 25-year-old have? 9th rank? Rank 8? Or rank 7? When Su Yueyun saw Su Shimin's serious expression, he didn't dare to continue talking. And at this moment, in a certain corner of the Su family's mansion, a feminine figure stood silently. This figure's eyes were cold, and he quickly glanced at the assassin's corpse on the ground. His expression was frighteningly cold. Did His Highness take action? This figure was the Grade 1 Great Grandmaster who had just arrived. His surname was Lu, and he was called Eunuch Lu. He was a red-clothed eunuch in the palace. 20 years ago, Eunuch Lu was ordered by the Emperor of Tang to take Prince Lixing out of the imperial palace and put him among the people to experience the hardships of the world. During this period, Eunuch Lu secretly protected Prince Lixing. But last night, Eunuch Lu suddenly felt that there were some problems with his cultivation, so he went a few miles away to rest. But what Eunuch Lu did not expect was that in this short period of time, Prince Lixing was assassinated. Moreover, the method of assassinating the assassin was very similar to an organization under the command of the princes. Damn it, Eunuch Lu was scared. He didn't dare to imagine what would happen to him if the assassination was successful and Prince Lixing died an unnatural death. Although Eunuch Lu could not see the vast national destiny in Prince Lixing's body, the Emperor of Tang paid such a huge price and ordered him to take Prince Lixing out of the imperial palace. He knew that Prince Lixing had a great relationship with him. Once something went wrong, he would not be able to absolve himself from the blame. However, who stopped the assassination? Eunuch Lu frowned. Although many martial artists were shouting Buddha's divinity manifestation, Yi Zichen didn't say anything. But Eunuch Lu did not believe this at all. He just rushed over and did not see the sky full of Buddha's light. Eunuch Lu walked to the assassins and began to check their injuries. However, with this check, Eunuch Lu's pupils suddenly shrank, because he was shocked to find that the 8 assassins on the field were almost at the same time. Their internal organs were shattered by some kind of force. This strength. Eunuch Lu was in disbelief. Although with his strength as a Grade 1 Great Grandmaster, there would be no accident if he wanted to kill these 8 assassins. However, it was very difficult to kill them all at the same time like what was happening right now. Especially when there were 2 upper realm martial artists among them. Upper realm martial artists, even the weakest Grade 3 martial artist, have their body and internal strength withstand the erosion of world's essence chi. In the face of a Grade 1 Great Grandmaster, even if they were far from being his opponent, they would not be trampled to death like an ant. At least if Eunuch Lu wanted to kill a Grade 3 martial artist, the other party might be able to struggle for a while. Moreover, before the last assassin died, he used several forbidden techniques and secret techniques, but he still died. Eunuch Lu felt incredulous. If Eunuch Lu was not mistaken, the last assassin used a forbidden technique of the imperial palace. Although the hidden dangers were huge, the improvement it brought to the user was also terrifying. A grade 3 martial artist, if using this secret technique, should be able to increase his strength to grade 2. But this assassin used several secret techniques at the same time. With the forbidden techniques superimposed on each other, Eunuch Lu even felt that the assassin's strength temporarily soared to grade 1 at the last moment, however. Even so, the other party still died. His death was no different from the other Middle Realm assassins. The only thing that could have caused such a scene could only be the difference in strength that was as vast as a chasm. Is it possible that Eunuch Xiao did it? Eunuch Lu's heart trembled, and the great eunuch wearing a purple robe suddenly appeared in his mind. Impossible. Eunuch Xiao will only protect his majesty. Other than that, it is absolutely impossible to leave the imperial palace. Eunuch Lu shook his head affirmatively. The reason why he was so sure was because Eunuch Xiao could not leave the imperial palace, and the reaction of the martial artists next to him. If Eunuch Xiao really took action, he would definitely not be regarded as a Buddha. Whatever. Since your highnesses have taken action, I should not be able to hide anymore. I need to go back to the imperial palace to see His Majesty. Eunuch Lu calmed down and wanted to bring Prince Li Sheng back to the imperial palace as soon as possible. At the same time, in a corner of the Su residence. Chapter 48. Family Su's Mansion. There was a lot of noise. Eunuch Lu's expression was uncertain, and fear appeared in the depths of his eyes. As a grade 1 great grandmaster, Eunuch Lu's eyesight and means are above most martial artists in the world. But it was precisely because of this that Eunuch Lu was more aware of what the scene in front of him meant. The more he knew, the more afraid he was. In Eunuch Lu's view, it was at least a peak grade 1 who could do all this so cleanly. Therefore, Eunuch Lu's first thought was, could it be that the purple-clothed Eunuch Xiao in the imperial palace made a move? However, this idea was rejected by him as soon as it appeared. First, it is impossible for Eunuch Xiao to leave the imperial palace. Second, even if Eunuch Xiao made a move, he would not let others think that it was a Buddha, showing his divinity. Family Su. Eunuch Lu's mind turned sharply, wondering if the peak grade 1 unintentionally made a move, or if it had something to do with the family Su. After a while, Eunuch Lu shook his head and determined that the peak grade 1 should have wandered here by accident. Eunuch Lu has long known about the marriage between Prince Li Sheng and the family Su's daughter. Before this, he had already investigated the family Su thoroughly. In the past 500 years, the strongest martial artist born in the family Su was only grade 4. Not even in the upper realm. Such a family Su is certainly good in a small city like Yen City, but it would be a joke to say that it has anything to do with a peak grade 1. I will bring the prince back to the imperial palace tonight. Eunuch Lu made a decision in his heart. At this moment, Prince Li Sheng had already attracted the attention of the other princes in the imperial court. In addition, it involved an unknown peerless rank 1. Even a grade 1 great grandmaster like Eunuch Lu felt uneasy at this moment. Although Eunuch Lu felt that the unknown peak grade 1 should have no malice towards Prince Li Sheng, otherwise, Prince Li Sheng would have died long ago. But no matter what, only by sending Prince Li Sheng back to the imperial palace would Eunuch Lu feel at ease. Eunuch Lu naturally didn't know that Su Qin had seen all the changes in his expression. Su Qin had already locked onto Eunuch Lu's position with the eye of truth when he saw the huge amount of the Empire of Tang's destiny in Prince Li Si's body. In fact, when the group of assassins began to attack and their killing intent filled the air, Eunuch Lu also sensed something and frantically rushed toward the Su residence. Unfortunately, with Eunuch Lu's speed, it was too late by the time he arrived at the Su residence. Because of this, Su Qin directly attacked. Now is not the time to reunite. Su Qin looked at his younger sister, Su Yuan, and the rest of the family Su. When I become Arhat and become truly invincible in the world, it won't be too late for us to meet again. Su Qin thought silently in his heart. Although he was now a peak grade 1 and had transformed twice, he was still not truly invincible in the world. At least, there were still existences on the same level as Su Qin in this world. For example, the imperial preceptor of the Meng Yuan Empire, Daoist Zhang on Wudong Mountain, and the purple-clothed eunuch in the palace of the Emperor of Tang. Of course, with the countless divine skills he had mastered and his body strengthened by the power of the seal in the back mountain, Su Qin's actual combat strength at this moment was probably able to crush ordinary peak grade 1 and could be said to be invincible below Arhat. But as long as he didn't step into the realm of Arhat, Su Qin felt that something was missing. As for now, as long as Su Qin confirmed that family Su was doing well, it was fine. That night, Eunuch Lu found Prince Li Sheng and directly confessed his identity. After half an hour of shock and disbelief, Prince Li Sheng could only half believe it. Because with Eunuch Lu's means, if he wanted to kidnap him, there was no need to make up such a reason. Next, Prince Li Sheng followed Eunuch Lu to leave family Su and went to the capital of the Empire of Tang. However, in the end, under Li Sheng's strong request, Eunuch Lu could only use the warrant given by the Emperor of Tang to order the Zhangzhou County Governor to send martial artists to protect family Su's safety. After Eunuch Lu's explanation, Prince Li Sheng also realized that the group of assassins during the day was targeting him. The family Su was just implicated by him. Because of this, Li Sheng was worried that the group of assassins would anger the family Su after he left, so he did this. Although Eunuch Lu repeatedly explained that the forces behind the assassins didn't care about a small family like family Su, Li Sheng's identity was special, so Eunuch Lu could only comply. And Su Qin, who saw all this, also had a good impression of Prince Li Sheng. If ordinary people suddenly learned that they were the bloodline of the high and mighty the Emperor of Tang, they would have long forgotten their surname. But this Li Sheng, at this moment, put family Su's safety first. Obviously, he was a good person. In the end, Prince Li Sheng promised Su Yueyun that when the situation there was stable, he would take her and leave with Eunuch Lu that night. The next day, a large number of martial artists sent by the Zhangzhou County Governor arrived. The weakest of these martial artists was grade 6, and even the two generals were in the upper realm. The Zhangzhou County Governor was obviously frightened and directly sent out all the guards around him. The warrant that Eunuch Lu showed was given by the Emperor of Tang and represents the will of the Emperor of Tang. How could the Zhangzhou County Governor dare to neglect it? At this time, Su Qin finally let out a soft sigh. Everything is over. Su Qin walked slowly on the streets of Yen City. It's time to leave. Now that the family Su is protected by the Zhangzhou County Governor's personal guards, it can be said that they are extremely safe. Su Qin doesn't need to stay here. However, before returning to the Shaolin Temple, I can go to the Southern Witch Mountains Demon Sect headquarters to take a look. Su Qin's thoughts fluctuated. Yesterday, he signed in at the Demon Sect's headquarters and obtained the Heavenly Demon Policy, a supreme demon art. Su Qin wondered if he could sign in again today. After all, the Demon Sect headquarters is the only place where Su Qin can sign in besides the Shaolin Temple. A few hours later, snow fluttered all over the sky and slowly fell. Su Qin stood casually in front of the Demon Sect headquarters, slightly disappointed. It seems that I can only sign in here once. Su Qin's expression was filled with emotion. He felt more and more the preciousness of the Shaolin Temple. Even a place like the Demon Sect headquarters is only enough for Su Qin to sign in once. But what about the Shaolin Temple? Su Qin has signed in for 15 years. Just how much Dao accumulation did it contain that Su Qin could repeatedly take advantage of it, like this? It's almost time. Su Qin turned and left. Because it was still early, Su Qin didn't immediately return to the Shaolin Temple. Instead, he planned to walk around and see if there were other places where he could sign in. Su Qin came to a small town. This town is located at the foot of the Southern Witch Mountain and relies on hunting in the mountains for a living. Su Qin, on the other hand, did not hide his figure. He walked into the town openly. Chapter 49. It's them? A smile appeared on Su Qin's face. Not far away, there was a pair of grandfather and grandson sitting there, peddling things. This pair of grandfather and grandson was the one that Su Qin asked for directions when he first arrived at Southern Witch Mountain. At that time, Su Qin also reminded them to go back as soon as possible. There would be heavy snow during the day and it was not safe outside. Su Qin did not expect this pair of grandfather and grandson to live here. As Su Qin looked over, the old man also noticed Su Qin. Master! Master, why are you here? The old man was shocked and immediately trotted over, looking grateful. In fact, the old man was very grateful to Su Qin at this moment. After Su Qin reminded them yesterday, the old man immediately rushed back to the town with his grandson. Sure enough, not long after, it began to snow heavily again. This time the snow was much heavier than any before. If the old man came back a little later, he might really be in danger. Could be said that Su Qin saved the lives of the grandfather and grandson. In this case, how could the old man not be grateful to Su Qin? At this time, the little boy also came over and carefully stood behind the old man, extremely well behaved. After the old man's reminder yesterday, the little boy also realized that Su Qin was a real master. I just passed by, so I came in to have a look, Su Qin said casually. He really just passed by here. He did not lie. So that's how it is. The old man immediately invited Su Qin to sit at his place. While the old man and Su Qin were talking, the other residents of the town came over from afar. These residents had basically never left the town in their lives. They were simple and honest. When they saw Su Qin, an eminent monk in a monk's robe, they all took out their most precious things to give to Su Qin. Su Qin naturally would not accept their things and rejected them one by one with a smile. Master, my surname is Li. You can call me Old Man Li, the old man said very respectfully. Although Su Qin looked young, at most in his 20s, Old Man Li never really regarded Su Qin as a young man. Although Old Li had never been out of the town, he was not completely ignorant. It was rumored that there were some old immortals in the world. These old immortals could live up to 100 years old, but their appearance was no different from that of a young person. At this moment, Su Qin was no different from a celestial being in Old Li's heart. Yesterday, Su Qin stepped on the snow for thousands of miles without leaving a single trace. If this wasn't an immortal, then what was? Got it. Su Qin didn't think much of it. Even if Su Qin knew about Old Li's all, he wouldn't say anything. Now, he was already a peak grade 1 who had transformed twice. In terms of combat power, he could be said to be the strongest under Arhat. He was indeed no different from the immortal in Old Li's eyes. This is your grandson? Su Qin turned his gaze and looked at the little boy behind Old Li. Under the observation of Su Qin's eyes of truth, the little boy's meridians were clear. If he practiced martial arts, he could step into the middle realm within 10 years. If there was an opportunity in the future, becoming a martial artist in the upper realm was not an extravagant hope. Of course, Su Qin just looked at him a little more and didn't have any other intentions. After all, with Su Qin's current strength, even a grade 1 great grandmaster would be a matter of a slap, let alone an upper realm martial artist. Just as Su Qin was about to leave and return to the Shaolin Temple. Rumble. The earth suddenly began to tremble. Huh. Su Qin frowned slightly. Immediately afterward, a terrified voice sounded. Mountain God is angry. As soon as these words came out, the faces of the people in the town suddenly became as white as paper. The town they live in is under the Southern Witch Mountain. They rely on the Southern Witch Mountain to live. Naturally, they are in awe of the so-called Mountain God. Even Old Man Li's entire body began to tremble violently when he heard the words Mountain God is angry. His face was filled with a deep sense of despair. Mountain God. Su Qin looked up at the sky, his face slightly dignified. It's not Mountain God, it's an avalanche. After several days of heavy snow, the Southern Witch Mountain has long been piled up with snow. At this moment, the snow was rolling down the mountain. Su Qin looked at the Southern Witch Mountain. Endless amounts of snow continued to pour down. Wherever the snow passed, the earth quaked and the mountains shook, shattering everything. Such a power of heaven and earth has exceeded the limit of imagination. It was as if the heavens were angry and wanted to destroy the world. If there is no huge vibration, logically speaking, there shouldn't be an avalanche? Su Qin was not as flustered as the others. With his current body, Even if he was buried under the snow mountain, he could still climb out and there would be no danger to his life. Is it because I killed a lot of people at the demon sect headquarters yesterday, under the transmission of my internal force? It shook somewhere in the southern Witch Mountain. Because of this, it continued to spread until today, causing this avalanche? Su Qin's thoughts turned quickly, and he determined a certain possibility. Only his terrifying strength of the peak first grade could have a slight possibility of shaking the southern Witch Mountain. This vibration, under normal circumstances, would not cause any problems. But at this moment, the snow had been piled up for several days. If there was another vibration, it would be like the last straw that broke the balance. The avalanche broke out. And just as Su Qin was thinking. At this moment, the other people in the town had long been scared out of their wits. They had experienced an avalanche before. But those avalanches in the past were incomparably small. They had never been as mighty as this one, almost destroying everything. It's over, it's all over. Someone looked desperate and muttered to himself. If it was any other danger, they could still escape. But under an avalanche, how could they escape? Old Li's face also turned pale. The little boy behind him was so scared that he did not dare to move. Only Su Qin stood there with a calm expression, looking straight at the endless avalanches that filled his field of vision. No one knew what he was thinking. Run, run quickly. At this moment, someone finally could not help it and subconsciously staggered to the back. Although no matter how far they ran, they would be caught up by the avalanche in an instant. They would just die a little later. But under human instinct, running away was always better than standing there and waiting for death. And in such a short time, the avalanche was already close to the town. Before the avalanche arrived, a piercing chill swept over and shrouded the void. Stimulated by this chill, everyone suddenly shivered and immediately fled in all directions. Run! Old Li held his grandson in his arms and was also ready to escape with the others. And at this moment, Old Li suddenly saw from the corner of his eyes that Su Qin was still standing in the same place, motionless, a sharp contrast with the others. Master, run quickly! Old Li braced himself and pulled Su Qin's arm behind him. However, no matter how hard Old Li tried, Su Qin did not move. It was as if Old Li was not grabbing a person, but a mountain. After all, it's because of me. Su Qin broke free from Old Li. Not only did he not run away, but he also walked in the direction of the avalanche. Master, what are you going to do? Old Li's scalp was numb, and he looked at Su Qin in disbelief. Block it? Su Qin replied calmly as he walked. It was as if the block Su Qin said was not the endless avalanche that could break everything, but the cats and dogs on the side of the road. Master, you? Old Li almost thought that he had misheard. Block it? Block this avalanche? I have. Su Qin said this, paused, and an inexplicable look appeared on his face. I haven't really fought for a long time. After that, under Old Li's incredulous gaze, Su Qin walked out of the town. Rumble. The avalanche swept across the sky. The terrifying shock seemed to break the world and bring it to the end. The next moment, in Old Li's shocked gaze, heaven and earth were enveloped by a dark golden glazed Buddha palm. There were golden Adumbra flowers blooming in all directions, majestic and sacred, extraordinary. At the same time, infinite Buddha light bloomed as if forming layers of pure land, shining and sheltering everything. And in the center of the pure land, there was a vague figure that was not a Buddha, but more like a Buddha. Chapter 50. The avalanche rolled and swept down with an unstoppable momentum. The earth shook and everything was broken. In front of this true power of heaven and earth, even a grade 1 great grandmaster would be terrified. Grandpa, are we dead? The little boy hugged Old Li tightly, his voice trembling. Although he was only a teenager, he also knew that the people in the town could not survive under the avalanche. However, no matter how the little boy called, Old Li, who was hugging him, froze and did not respond. Grandpa, what's wrong with you? The little boy summoned the courage to open his eyes and looked up at Old Li. He saw that Old Li's eyes were wide open, and his face was filled with extreme shock. The little boy was puzzled and subconsciously followed Old Li's gaze. However, with this look, the little boy saw a scene that he would never forget in his life. He saw that under the endless avalanche, a dark golden Buddha palm covering the world slowly pressed down, and the whole town seemed to have become one of the boundless pure lands in the dark golden Buddha palm. If one were to look at it from afar, they would see a golden Buddha reaching out its palm to protect the entire town. Buddha's aura filled the air. Golden lotuses bloomed. The little boy could vaguely hear Zen sounds, as if there was a Buddha chanting. Rumble. The next moment, the rolling avalanche washed down. However, under the protection of the dark golden Buddha palm covering the world, the town stood intact in the avalanche, like a pure land in the palm. This is the real Buddha. Old Li's hands trembled and tears flowed down his face. At his age, he already had one foot in the coffin. Fame and fortune, the 7 emotions and 6 desires, he had already accepted them. But at this time, true awe rose in Old Li's heart, as if he was facing a Buddha. Puff, 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 puff. When the others saw this scene, they knelt down and kowtowed to Su Qin, looking extremely pious. They were not fools. Naturally, they could see that if it weren't for Su Qin, the whole town would have been turned into dust under the avalanche. It can be said that Su Qin is the savior of everyone in this town. In this case, who would not kneel? Who would dare not kneel? Whoosh! Endless avalanches crazily crashed down, but they were all blocked outside of the town. As time passed, the terrifying pressure rapidly increased. However, under this glass Buddha palm that covered the heavens and earth, it didn't seem to have any effect at all. In the center of the Buddha's palm, Su Qin sat cross-legged. His divine sense, physical body, and a small portion of his transformed inner energy slowly collided and fused together, slowly and firmly blocking the avalanche that filled the sky. An hour later, the rolling avalanche began to slow down. The heavy snow that had accumulated in the southern Witch Mountain for the past few days had basically been emptied. It's almost over. Su Qin slowly opened his eyes. Under the observation of the Eye of Truth, he had a clear grasp of the situation. The might of heaven and earth is indeed terrifying. With my current strength, it's still a bit difficult. Su Qin shook his head slightly. Although the town was basically saved, Su Qin knew very well that the avalanche he was facing was only 100,000th or 100,000th of the real avalanche's power. The avalanche that swept down from the southern Witch Mountain spread out in all directions for hundreds of miles. The town where Su Qin was located was just a small part of these hundreds of miles. But even so, Su Qin's inner energy and divine sense were also greatly consumed. It could be said that if the current Su Qin encountered 8 or 10 peak grade 1 experts joining forces, he would definitely turn around and run away. It's about time. It's time to leave. Su Qin glanced around, glanced at the people who were constantly kneeling on the ground and kowtowing, and quietly left. A moment later, as the sun shone, the people kneeling on the ground could not help but raise their heads. Is it over? The people of the town felt as if they were in a dream. They actually survived that earth-shattering avalanche? Master, where's the master? At this moment, Old Li suddenly called out. As soon as these words came out, the others suddenly came to their senses. The reason why they survived the avalanche was entirely because of the young monk. Yeah. Where's the master? Everyone looked around and asked. Old Li, you know the master. Do you know where the master went? A middle-aged man looked at Old Li and could not help but ask. Before the avalanche began, he saw Old Li and Su Qin talking. How would I know? Old Li rolled his eyes. In Old Li's eyes, Su Qin at this moment was no different from the legendary Buddha. How could a mere mortal like him know? That's right. The middle-aged man who asked the question reacted. Although because of the avalanche, except for the town, other places were covered with snow and they could not go out at all. But in the end, they survived. With the food in the town, if they were frugal, it would not be difficult to survive for a few months. And after a few months, it would probably be summer. By that time, the snow outside would have melted long ago. The monk saved us. We can't do nothing. At this time, the middle-aged man who first spoke again. Do nothing? What do you mean? Old Li frowned and asked. He had long been full of true awe for Su Qin, but he did not know how to express it. In Old Li's view, even if the whole town was packed and given to Su Qin would not like it. Even if Old Li thought hard, he could not think of what he could do to repay Su Qin for saving his life. How about every family in our town cast a golden body for the master and worship him day and night? The middle-aged man thought for a while and said, as soon as the words came out. The others immediately nodded. Especially Old Li, his eyes lit up. Hundreds of miles away from the southern Witch Mountain, Su Qin took a step forward, crossing dozens of hundreds of meters, and dared to go in the direction of the Shaolin Temple. Su Qin naturally did not know that because he blocked the avalanche, the people in the town were ready to cast a golden body for him and worship him day and night. Perhaps even if Su Qin knew, he would not care too much. At this moment, Su Qin was holding a large bottle of recover pills in one hand and a large bottle of yun pills in the other. He kept pouring these two pills into his mouth as if he was eating beans. Whether it was the recover pills or the yun pills, as soon as they entered Su Qin's mouth, they were instantly digested by his powerful body and turned into rolling internal force and abundant divine thought, replenishing Su Qin's consumption. If the Bodhi-Yard's master saw Su Qin's behavior, he would definitely be heartbroken. The recover pill was one of the sacred pills of the Shaolin Temple, and its efficacy was several times that of the small recover pill. Even the Bodhi-Yard only produced dozens of pills a year. Chapter 51. It's almost done. Su Qin stopped swallowing pills. Whether it is the Great Revitalizing Pill or the Divine Accumulation Pill, they are just a small part of the pills Su Qin has obtained from signing in for 15 years. Through these years of signing in, Su Qin has already achieved pill freedom. No matter how much he eats, he won't even blink his eyes. Just now, when I blocked the avalanche and faced the power of heaven and earth, I seemed to have faintly grasped the qi between heaven and earth. Su Qin's divine sense slowly spread out and merged with heaven and earth, feeling something carefully. If a Grade 1 Great Grandmaster wants to go further, in addition to completing the 3 transformations of the body, divine sense, and internal strength, he must also grasp the qi between heaven and earth. Compared to the former, the latter is even more difficult. Because whether it is the transformation of the body, internal strength, or the transformation of the spirit, there are traces to follow. A Grade 1 Great Grandmaster knows what direction he should go. If the body is weak, he should forge the body. If the spirit is weak, he should nurture the spirit. If the internal strength is not pure, he should purify it. For a Grade 1 Great Grandmaster, if he wants to complete the 3 transformations, it is at most impossible, not impossible. However, it was completely impossible to grasp that wisp of qi between the heavens and the earth. For thousands of years, many peak Grade 1 Great Grandmasters who have transformed 3 times were abruptly killed. Grasping the qi? Grasping what qi? The concept of qi dynamic was extremely mysterious and profound. There is no specific direction to do it. Even the qi that each peak Grade 1 Great Grandmaster needs to grasp is different, and there is no way to remind him. Originally, Su Qin was going to wait for his internal strength to transform, and then observe the heaven and earth with the eyes of truth to capture the qi. Anyway, Su Qin has a lot of shouyuan, so he can afford to wait. However, what Su Qin did not expect was that this time, by directly facing the power of heaven and earth, he was able to faintly perceive the location of the qi. In other words, as long as Su Qin's internal strength completes the transformation, there will be no obstacles between him and Arhat. Haha. Awesome, this is awesome. Su Qin was in a good mood. His qi and blood surged. In this snowy world, he was like a scorching furnace. All the snowflakes quickly melted when they were within 100 meters of Su Qin. Southern Witch Mountain. At the foot of the Southern Witch Mountain, everything was destroyed because of the avalanche, but at the top of the Southern Witch Mountain, it was not affected much because of the terrain. At this very moment, a figure suddenly jumped out from under the accumulated snow. The figure panted heavily and looked in the direction of the demon sect's headquarters. His eyes were filled with great fear. This figure was called Kun Kong, a disciple of the demon sect. Dead. The sect master is dead. The elders are dead. They're all dead. Kun Kong's voice trembled and his face was ashen. Yesterday, he had seen with his own eyes a young monk in a gray robe enter the hall where many elders and sect masters of the demon sect were in seclusion. At that time, Kun Kong had thought that the young monk would definitely die. After all, how could a monk from the Shaolin Temple come out of the demon sect's headquarters alive? However, just as Kun Kong dozed off, when he entered the hall, he found a river of blood. All the elders of the demon sect died on the spot. Even the demon sect's sect master, who had entered the grade 1 great grandmaster realm, had died. When Kun Kong saw this, he felt his scalp tingle. Without any hesitation, he fled far away from the demon sect's headquarters. He found a remote place and hid under a pile of snow with the breath-holding technique. Kun Kong was scared. He was really scared. An existence that could easily slaughter all the upper realm elders of the demon sect, including the sect master, was not something that Kun Kong could imagine. It's that monk? Kun Kong suddenly shuddered. Before the death of many elders of the demon sect, only the young monk had entered the hall. A holy monk. That monk is a holy monk. Kun Kong whispered to himself. As a disciple of the demon sect, Kun Kong was clear about the most basic level of martial Dao. A holy monk of the Buddhist sect corresponds to a grade 1 great grandmaster. The demon sect is finished. Kun Kong's heart was cold. Although he survived, once the news of the fall of many upper realm elders of the demon sect spread out, the fate of the demon sect disciples would be to be wiped out by the righteous sects. The righteous sects will not let go of this opportunity to completely eradicate the demon sect. What should I do? Kun Kong's expression was gloomy. As a disciple of the demon sect cultivation technique in his body cannot be hidden from the righteous sects. Unless Kun Kong is prepared to never fight again in his life and be a farmer. No. There is still hope for the demon sect. Just when Kun Kong was in despair, he suddenly thought of something in his mind. He once heard from an upper realm elder of the demon sect that the previous sect master of the demon sect was a man of great talent. But later, he wanted to break through and left the demon sect, choosing to enter seclusion. It was precisely because of this that in the confrontation between the demon sect and the righteous sects for decades, the demon sect was forced to retreat. In the end, they were squeezed into Yong province. Thinking of this, hope finally rose in Kun Kong's heart. If he can find the previous sect master of the demon sect and have him return to the demon sect, not only will the demon sect not be finished, but it can also prosper again. With the previous sect master of the demon sect, at that time, he may be able to find a holy monk of the Shaolin Temple and take revenge. I remember the elders said that more than 50 years ago, the previous sect master of the demon sect went to the Western Desert alone and there was no news of him since. In other words, the place where he entered seclusion is very likely to be in the Western Desert? Kun Kong thought quickly in his heart. The Western Desert is vast. Finding someone in such a large place is tantamount to ascending to the sky. But Kun Kong has no other choice. Only by inviting the previous sect master of the demon sect can he reorganize the demon sect. At the same time, Su Qin also rushed back to the Shaolin Temple. There are monks patrolling outside the Shaolin Temple, and ordinary martial artists can't sneak in at all. But for Su Qin, it was not a problem at all. I'm finally back. Su Qin quietly came to the chores yard, entered his room and sighed. Although he had only left the Shaolin Temple for less than 2 days, it felt like months had passed. The Shaolin Temple is still the best. It's safe. Su Qin listened to the leisurely sound of the bell and sighed softly. No one should know that I've been out for a while. Su Qin glanced at the room and guessed in his heart. As a senior disciple who has been in the temple for 15 years, Su Qin didn't need to clean every day. And this time, before he went out, Su Qin went to the new chores yard head and took a 2-day break on the grounds that he was not feeling well. The new chores yard head had a good relationship with Su Qin, so he agreed immediately. Since I'm back, I'll go to the sutra depository to sign in first. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, martial world, and tales of demons and gods.